Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know it's close to happy hour, so I really appreciate you guys kind of coming out and listening to me kind of babble through 5 disruptive marketing predictions for 2015. Sorry, I don't want this to be too loud. Let's scoot that back a little bit. All right. So before we get started, just wanted to tell you a little bit of boring stuff about myself. I'm the founder of a boutique marketing firm in Washington, D.C. I have kind of a unique team of eclectic group of people who are kind of in-house, corporate, startup, agency, a lot of people with experience in the B2C, B2B, and B2G space. So it's kind of an eclectic mix. Some of our clients range from analytics companies like ComScore, all the way to kind of cool restaurants, to some really fun consumer brands, kind of like Awkward Family Photos. So if you've ever heard of them, we've kind of had a lot of luck being able to work with them. So what you're going to see here are 5 marketing predictions that we've kind of based primarily on data that we've gathered from our clients, from industry analysts, and other things we kind of see going on in the space. And I'm also going to apologize ahead of time. I went to an art school for way too long, and so they kind of ingrained in us to do a lot of cheesy stuff. So it's going to be a little interactive, and there's not going to be too many slides to kind of bore you. All right, so 2015 is the year of the consumer. I know that a lot of people have said this in the past, but as you kind of see everything with social media, and as you see with the predictions, they all kind of center around the consumer base. And as we get into it, you'll see why. All right, so question for everyone. So raise your hand if you've ever purchased anything from your computer. All right, you can put your hands down. All right, raise your hand if you've ever purchased anything from a tablet. All right, thank you. And raise your hand if you've ever purchased anything from a mobile device. All right, now here's the million-dollar question. How many of you have started purchasing something from your mobile device only to finish purchasing it from your computer? All right, so a handful. All right, so that brings us to our first prediction, device tracking. So device tracking is going to be a necessity in 2015. Basically, 28% of users begin purchases on a smartphone and actually then complete that purchase on a computer. And I think that was a similar percentage that we actually kind of saw in this room, which was kind of cool. And while payment models like CPA, CPC, CPI, those aren't going to go anywhere, but being able to actually track where they started from and where they finished and how that affects you, especially if you're in the affiliate space, that's going to be very, very important in 2015. And so you're lucky that there's a lot of tools and actually a lot of great things out there that now with technology, how it's changed, has actually gotten to a place that can connect the dots. One example that we had with a client was this past year and kind of leading up to this year, they saw a 35% decrease in online conversions. And primarily it was from mobile conversions. However, they also saw an uptick, it was about 40% of conversions coming in over the phone. So basically what people were doing, it was a change of behavior, right? It was too hard to fill out the form, or the mobile device was hard, and so instead they called. And so making sure that that original, where you're coming from, where it's being attributed to, is very, very important in this space. So making sure that you have the right device tracking in place, or the program that you're working with, if you are an affiliate and you are working with an affiliate manager, how that kind of works on the back end. And just so you know too, at the end, and actually if you tweet to us at the Twitter handle, we'll show you, we'll actually send you a list of all of the tools and everything else, because we knew this was going to be a very short session, so we knew we were going to be able to cram it all in, so don't worry about that. All right, so number 2, another little fun game. So raise your hand if you're in Las Vegas, Nevada right now. I hope everybody raises their hand. All right. Keep your hand raised if you've been to a concert in the last year. And keep your hand raised if you like beer. And now raise your hand or keep your hand raised if you're between the ages of 30 and 45. And the last one, keep it raised if you want to go to a tropical island sometime this year. All right, so you can see throughout that there are a lot of hands kind of going up and going down kind of throughout. That brings us to our second one, about ad networks. Now I know you're thinking, what does all this have to do with ad networks? This gets specifically to the kind of targeting that's out there. So if you were trying to market any of those things, or if your audience were any of those people in that space, going after such a broad set would obviously be extremely inefficient. And if you were a publisher that reached a big set, that'd be extremely inefficient and not profitable for you either. So basically, the new advances in technology, ad networks are actually going to be key. So when you have demographic, behavioral, psychographic, predictive technology that's out there, they're the only ones that have a broad enough reach and the technology layer that sits there and actually is able to sort it out and actually target people with this information. This leads to being much more cost efficient for both advertisers and also much more profitable for publishers. So that's kind of exciting. Making money is always exciting. All right, so stand up if you've been on Facebook at all today. Don't worry, there's not going to be like an intervention. You guys can be honest. It's okay. All right, you guys can sit down. Well, you're lucky you're not alone. So this brings us to the third one. Content will drive Facebook organic reach. So I'm sure you guys have already started to see, especially if you're a Facebook advertiser or anything else, you know the importance of Facebook. A lot of our clients actually they claim that 75% of their site traffic is actually being driven to them from Facebook. That's a crazy number. And Facebook claims themselves that they reach 89% of your audience. And I think there's some insane stat that like 3 out of every 4 smartphones actually has the app on its phone, and people visit it every single day. So obviously this is a very, very ripe place for people to be going to. And now in 2015, Facebook's going to continue to kind of tweak their algorithm to ensure that the user experience isn't being tainted by businesses overly promoting themselves. And so as an advertiser, it's becoming, paramount to actually give really interesting content that doesn't seem overly promotional. So again, that real content that's very valuable, that's very honest, that people actually want to engage in is going to be the only way that any sort of brand or business is going to be able to kind of break through the clutter. And we actually have some really, really cool tools that we'll share with you again at the end that can help you kind of either create that content, or if you're a publisher, it's a really great way to monetize some of that content in a kind of unique way. All right, another fun game, because I know you guys love this so far. So remember one of the first questions was, how many people started on a smartphone only to finish with a laptop? All right. So the question is why? So why do a lot of people start on their smartphones and then finish on a laptop? Anybody have a guess? What was that? It's too hard to buy on a smartphone. Yes. All right. That was the best one that I heard. So if your answer was around then, everybody gets credit for that one. So that brings us to 4. Mobile is going to be something that's more than just responsive. So we're coming from a place where everybody had to have an app. Mobile design was this really cool thing, and responsive was this really, really awesome way to be able to optimize your site without needing a whole other code set. However, unfortunately, it doesn't usually go all the way down to the checkout process or the conversion process. So in 2015, when we're in this world where 52% of people are using smartphones, 67% are likely to purchase off of a mobile site, and I had this crazy stat that was like 46% of all affiliate clicks occurred on mobile, and 26% of all affiliate retail sales occurred on mobile. So if you're partnering with an organization and their checkout process or conversion process or lead gen process isn't optimized on a mobile device, or they're not tracking it properly, then you're going to be left in a place where you're not making as much money. So that's going to be a very imperative thing in terms of, keeping an eye on that for 2015. All right, so a little bit of a tease, but I guess we're in a kind of warm place today, so it's not too bad. But raise your hand if your business targets an audience that's in North America or in Europe. That's who you kind of focus on. All right. Now raise your hand if you target anybody who's outside of North America or Europe. All right, so a few, so that's good. So the number 5 prediction is that international will drive growth. And for those of you who raise your hands, I hope you're nodding your heads because this is such a crazy, amazing area for us to be able to kind of move into. It's very exciting. So as many of you already know, the North American and European markets are pretty saturated. But Asian markets are kind of growing exponentially. Like if you look at China, I think there's like 600 million people who are on the internet. And I think that on mobile, they have like 20% growth year over year for the last 4 years. Like those are insane numbers. But it presents a huge opportunity if you're an advertiser or a publisher or an affiliate, because there's a lot of relevant opportunities that are out there in that marketplace. All right, so as I said, 2015, year of the consumer. As you can kind of see, all of those things that we talked about, whether it was the device tracking, because that's all about the person, right? Where the person wants to engage, where the person wants to buy. Ad networks, that's all about targeting. So that's all about who you're actually talking to, why you're talking to them, when they're talking to them, and hopefully can be much more cost effective than it has been in the past. 3, Facebook, again, the consumer. They want to be on Facebook. They want to ingest information that way. So obviously that's where businesses are going to have to be to kind of pull them in, draw them away, and convert them. And 4, being able to, again, the consumer wants to be on their mobile device. I'm sure everybody has a smartphone in here with them. If you don't, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We can talk about that later. And then 5, international. Again, more consumers. So you can kind of see all of these predictions kind of circle around all the consumers. It's really all about them. And as I said, we put together a cheat sheet with tools that kind of address each of these things and different trends that we've seen in 2015. So just shoot us a tweet and we'll send it over to you. And that's our address. So thank you. I think I have a few minutes. I think I have like 6 minutes. If anybody has any questions. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you, if you speak up, or there's a microphone back there. Okay. On the ad networks? There are a lot of them. There are, and we actually have narrowed it down to some of our favorite ones on here. And I apologize in advance if there are ad networks in the room and they get offended by it. I think it depends on what you're trying to market. So if you have a little bit of time, maybe afterward, we can maybe talk about if you have a specific product or if you have clients who have specific products, you'll find a lot of their capabilities can be very different. There's usually a nice fit that's in there. That's kind of the nice part of having multiple ones. Anybody else? All right, awesome. I won't keep you. Like I said, happy hour, it's going to be 5 o'clock somewhere, like here, in like 16 minutes. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.